Good morning, everyone. My name is Jillian Bender-Cormier. I'm brand manager with Bender Insurance Solutions. We want to welcome you to another educational Bender U webinar, Pandemic Pivot, Rediscovering Your Brand's Marketing Plan. Some housekeeping notes. At the end of this webinar, we will have an engaging Q&A session that I will be facilitating. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type them into the chat box or in the Q&A section. We'd like this to be an interactive experience, so our presenters will be checking these areas to answer your questions in real time. During the dedicated Q&A time at the end of the presentation, I'll be sharing any additional questions you might have with our speakers. We want to be conscious of time, so if we don't get to answer all of your questions, we will gladly reach out to you individually after the webinar. You are all in listen-only mode and will remain muted throughout the webinar. This session is being recorded. At the conclusion of the webinar, the recording link will be forwarded to you. We have a fantastic set of experts sharing with us this morning, and I get the honor to introduce them. Debbie Hammond is the founder and CEO of Merlot Marketing, an award-winning national marketing agency that specializes in brand strategy, advertising, social media, and public relations. With a roster of local, national, and international clients, its team has won numerous awards for brand development, web design, advertising, events, promotions, public relations, and social media. An award winner herself, Debbie has been recognized as a leader in business and marketing. Most notably, she's been named one of the Sacramento Business Journal's top 40 under 40 and PR Person of the Year by the Sacramento Public Relations Association. And just last week, Debbie was honored as a woman who means business by the Sacramento Business Journal. Congratulations, Debbie. Now to share about our other panelist, Brenda Foreman. With 15 years of experience at Merlot Marketing as Vice President, Managing Director, and Strategist, Brenda guides marketing strategies for the agency's local, national, and international clients. Brenda has secured numerous international and national marketing awards in all marketing categories. She was named Media Person of the Year by the American Advertising Federation, and she was recently recognized as one of the Sacramento Business Journal's 40 under 40 business professionals. We at Bender Insurance Solutions have worked with Merlot and their fabulous team for many years and are thrilled that they are able to present on this important topic for so many businesses at this time. Without further ado, please help me welcome Debbie and Brenda.
All right. Well, thank you, Jillian. We appreciate the invitation to share some insights on marketing during this, well, somewhat crazy time. I wish I could see all of you on this webinar, but this is the best we can do, is to, I guess, share a picture of Brenda and myself. Anyway, normally I would start by asking some sort of a marketing question, but since we're in the midst of a pandemic, you know, I figured I'd ask, how many of you can't wait for 2020 to be over? Again, since we're all virtual, I will answer this question for Brenda and myself. And yeah, we can't wait. However, some good has come from 2020, and this is making us better marketers. We're having to think more about our audience, our messaging, and hopefully y'all will walk away with some key insights and tips to help make all of us better marketers. So I'm Debbie Hammond, the one speaking. Brenda, you want to say hello, Brenda?
Hello.
So you kind of get our voices, because we'll be going back and forth through this presentation. Let me see. There we go. So just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. A brief introduction of Merlot. We're going to talk a little bit about, you know, consumer behavior during COVID. There's some really good stuff in there. We're going to just all get on the same page with regard to the definition of a brand. You'll see what I mean when we get there. We're going to talk about the importance of your brand why. And then we're going to end with 5 tips that we hope will help you walk away a better marketer, and at least with some ideas to take back to your businesses and implement. So the way we define marketing today is it's a conversation. And when you look at marketing, a lot of people, it's sort of this, it's nebulous to most people. So it's sort of this imprecise, fuzzy thing. And so we define marketing as a conversation because social has made that even more relevant than ever before. I mean, whether advertising, PR, social media, it's really all about conversation. If you're facing some sort of a PR crisis, the very first thing you want to do is change the conversation. If you're launching a new product or service, you want to create a conversation. And if nothing is being said about you at all, you probably want to start a conversation. So, I think the biggest difference is that marketing is no longer one directional. Our targeted audiences have access and a voice. And for good or bad, they will use them, as we all know from Yelp and social media. So, ultimately, marketing has changed dramatically. And we think Don Draper had it right. It's really about a conversation. And we have an opportunity to control that conversation. So just to give you a brief overview on Merlot, we are a national agency with offices in California and Nevada. We work with clients locally and all across the country. And I'll tell you, we are all facing similar yet unique challenges. And in some cases, our clients are seizing amazing opportunities, and you can too. We also work with a few international clients, one of which is in Italy, where they faced early and deep shutdowns. What I can say is that whether local or national or international, this pandemic is affecting everyone and every company in one way or another. From a marketing perspective, our job is to try to provide some insight and help see some opportunities along the way. So just to give you a quick overview, a few clients you might be familiar with, Bender, hopefully being one of them. We work with the Agricultural Council of California. We just have some amazing local clients that we have been fortunate to work with for many years, including Mulvaney's, B&L, among others. We work with quite a few national brands in the home and building products category. But anyway, just wanted to share, give you a little perspective of experience in our broad portfolio. So now let's talk about marketing during a pandemic.
Yeah, so this is Brenda jumping in here. So let's talk about COVID. So I know Jillian mentioned this at the beginning. What we're going over today, as you guys all know, marketing is super targeted to your individual product, your individual service, your industry. So what we're giving is just such a high brushstroke overview of marketing. But if you guys have questions along the way, we have the questions in the chat box open. We don't want you to wait till the end because we want to make this as meaningful and relevant to you guys as possible. So if you have questions, please drop those in and we'll do our best to answer them along the way. So let's talk about COVID. So, Debbie and I, we've been doing this for well over 20 years. We survived the aftermath of 9/11. We survived the 2008 recession. And quite frankly, this worldwide pandemic has really just been an eye-opener with how quickly consumer behaviors can change. And that has a lot to do with technology. So the use of social media, the introduction of new platforms just overnight. This pandemic has really shown us how a consumer behavior can change in just a matter of a month, which will show you some research there. So this is not unique to the pandemic. We think that this is going to be something that we will see moving forward, that if there is a worldwide anything, if there's a national anything, behaviors can change more quickly than they ever have in the past. So although we're focusing on COVID for this call or for this webinar, just these are best practices just to prepare you for the next thing. So we just wanted to start, if you can go to the next slide there, Debbie. our media partner is iHeartRadio, so we're borrowing some research from them because they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to just measure the pulse of what the market is sharing with us today. So we wanted to utilize that and share that with you guys. First and foremost, just some advice. This came on super early in the pandemic. We had the Google Global VP of Media say, as market dynamics change rapidly, we're constantly reassessing campaigns. What we decided 2 weeks ago isn't necessarily appropriate today. This is the bulk of our topic today, is you can't set it and forget it. It absolutely has to be reevaluated and possibly, you know, pivot within a matter of days or a matter of weeks. You should have more time now, sadly, to use it to your advantage. Put in the effort so you can grow. That way you'll come out of the coronavirus stronger. This idea, this concept is what sparked Debbie and I to want to do this presentation in the first place, because things have slowed down. It slowed down for us with regard to certain clients that were doing budget cuts right at the beginning because they were uncertain with what was happening. And we wanted to force them to just, okay, take this time to reevaluate your marketing campaign and your message. Take a look at what consumers are doing so that we're making sure that you're meeting the change in behavior and that you're putting your message in front of where they need to be. So some research from iHeart, what are consumers doing more of? This is just by age bracket. Like Jillian said, you guys will get this presentation afterwards so that you can sit with the data. But some obvious things: TV and movies, that grew 68% within the first month of the shutdown. Mobile device usage, we were all at home, searching the internet, shopping on Amazon, you know, checking the news. So a 67% increase in mobile device. And then video mobile gaming, especially with the younger demographic, that had an increase within the first month of 50%. Looking at the next age bracket, might be a little delay. Yeah, 35 to 54, TV, movies up 71%. Again, mobile device up 58%. Home improvement up 32%. Like Debbie mentioned, we have a lot of clients in the home products category, and they are an industry that is dealing with inventory shortage right now because they can't keep up with the demand. Again, taking a look at, you know, we know that there are so many businesses represented on this call. Take a look at your target audience. Where are they spending their time? Because that's where you want to put your message. 55 plus, I was cooking, more people cooking at home. So just the recipes, online search, different behaviors there. And then just, you know, more media is being used than ever before. Again, it's pretty obvious. It's everybody's stuck at home. They are watching more TV. They're on their laptops. They're on their tablets. So this is just a quick snapshot, again, provided by iHeart, as far as, you know, what media is trending in different age brackets. So watching TV and movies, this is a great example of a dramatic shift that happened because of the pandemic. There was already a trend towards cord cutters and doing more streaming online. But after the pandemic hit, that trend just grew exponentially. They were expecting it to grow over the course of the next 5 years, and it grew, you know, within 2 months. So again, that's where you look at your marketing spend, and maybe you spend more money on OTT and digital radio versus on traditional TV. Sports, those were gone. What were we doing without our sports? You know, Giants fan here, so we had to put that in there. But sports now moved over to gaming systems, and this is ESPN is a great example of a pandemic pivot, because you had Twitch TV, which is, you know, streaming gaming. You have TikTok apps being introduced. Those numbers skyrocketing during a pandemic, but then ESPN was seeing dramatic drops. So they were going through some changes also, and they needed to pivot with the times. So nobody is, you know, everybody's affected by this. There's a lot of categories that are hurting because of the pandemic, but there are some categories that are doing well. So if your business, your service falls in one of these categories, there's definitely a lot of opportunities here. Grocery stores, and I don't know if you guys went through this, I did. I used to do a little shopping on Raley's.com before the pandemic. But afterwards, I was all about the online shopping, but the lead time was 2 weeks. So definitely kind of a flood towards online shopping. And this is just to say that this is directly during the pandemic, that these are behaviors that are going to change in the long term. I am much more comfortable shopping online than for groceries than I was prior to the pandemic. So that is not going to change for me. Gyms are closing, and so now people are investing in home gyms. They're going to be working out more. There's Peloton. Hello, Peloton has a 3-month window for orders. So just again, this is taking a look at the categories. How does it relate to your business, your service, and how are behaviors changing in the long term?
Okay, so what is a brand? I know it sounds like a rudimentary question, but if I ask a room full of 75 marketers this question, I will walk away with 75 different answers. So for the purposes of this presentation, I'd like us all to be on the same page with regard to what is a brand. So we define a brand as it is the most valuable real estate in the world. It's a corner of your target audience's mind. So although this says consumer, don't let the word consumer make you think that if you're a B2B, this definition doesn't work. A consumer is whoever is your target audience. So, you know, from trade, commercial, consumer, otherwise, a brand is what you own in the mind of your target audience. The reason we define a brand is because we're going to talk a lot about the importance of your brand, especially now more than ever. So we've defined a brand, but what makes a brand so valuable? A brand, once again, is what you, the organization, makes it. A lot of companies make their product their brand, or they'll make, let's say, their core service their brand. Your brand is so much more than that. Again, especially now during COVID, and this is what I mean by that. So, you know, now more than ever, people really want to connect with companies and brands on a more emotional level versus this transactional level. So, you know, people act on what they feel and believe, not on what they know. And I know we think we all don't, but we do. And that's why it's so important that you need to capture the heart and the mind. So, you know, in times of crisis like a worldwide pandemic, consumers want to believe that the companies they work with and the brands that they buy from are authentic and care about their customers. So now is the time to look at your organization and reevaluate, you know, how can you better connect with your customers on an emotional level? So once again, we all say that we don't buy because of the brand or the brand name, but the fact is we do. It's subconscious. So, you know, we then go and justify the buy with facts, with features, with benefits. It was on sale, whatever. But we all make that initial buying decision on what we feel and believe. And then we turn around and we justify it with the facts. So, you know, it's some important questions to answer are, you know, why are you in business? What's your purpose? And again, we're not talking about making a profit. That's going to be the result. So if you're familiar with Simon Sinek, he's an author and a motivational speaker. He has tremendous insight into human behavior and marketing. And his philosophy is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So once again, if you're familiar with Simon Sinek, you're probably familiar with the concept of the golden circle. His premise is that the traditional way of marketing no longer works, and we couldn't agree more. And that is, you know, basically to market what you do and sometimes how you do it. The concept is that most companies act, think, and communicate from the inside out, and his philosophy is that is all wrong. And the reason why is you know what you do and how you do it but do you know why? And it's the why that people are really going to care about. Your customers usually have a good idea of what you do. Some probably have an idea of how you do it. But again, the big question is why? Do they know why you do what you do? That's what makes people care. That's what makes people connect on an emotional level. So he talks about the fact that the power of why is not opinion, but rather it's biology. It's how humans think and make decisions. So I'm going to give you a real life example of what I mean and how it works. But if you want to really understand the concept of the golden circles, all you have to do is search Simon Sinek, the golden circle on YouTube. And it is a great video that will really give you a better understanding of this entire concept and the power behind it. I believe the video is about 15 minutes. You know what? A solid 7 minutes in, you'll get exactly what you need. Okay, so instead of this golden circles, we call it our brand why. So this is a company, a client, and they make inertial measurement devices. So essentially what that is, it measures yaw, pitch, and roll. It essentially keeps your automobiles from flipping over. They started in aerospace, and as of, I believe, any car manufactured after 2012 has one of these inertial measurement devices in it. So it essentially makes driving much safer. So this company, you know, they know what they do. They make, you know, one of the best microgyros on the market. They know how they do it with proprietary use of quartz within this technology. But the question is sort of why, you know, why does this all matter? So we asked them. So we took this company through our Rediscover process, and it was very difficult to get the executives in the same room. Essentially what they said to us was, you know what, we've been working together for almost 20 years. We understand marketing, we understand our business. So we, you know, they didn't want to spend a whole day in a room talking about marketing, branding, and business, because they really felt like they knew each other well enough and where they were going. But as marketers, you know, again, it goes beyond your product or your service. I mean, we have to really get to the why of the business. So we asked, you know, one of the guys, kind of, you know, what business are you in? Sort of, you know, why do you do what you do? And you know, he said that we make the world's best microgyros, and we're here to make money and profit, and you know, that's what the business is about. And we asked the other executive the same question, and he thought about it for a few minutes, and he said, you know, we're in the business of saving lives. And, you know, we all pause. Like, that was a real powerful moment. So, you know, you can look at what you do, you can look at how you do it, but boy, when you can figure out that why, it becomes pretty powerful. And let me show you what we mean by that. So we can market this, the best quartz-based microgyro, give all the facts, the figures, the benefits, etc. Or we can market this. So you can begin to see the difference. Once we understood this company's why, we were able to take that not only to their target audience, but to their internal audience as well. So where we walked through, we toured all of their manufacturing facilities, and you have all of these people working on this amazing life-saving technology. But what the people actually making the product thought was, we're making a quartz-based microgyro. We're utilizing great technology and making a really good product to sell. And after getting a true understanding of their why, the campaign to their customers changed dramatically. And we had posters all throughout the manufacturing facility talking about why these people come into work every day. their job isn't to make just the best quartz-based microgyro. Their job is saving people's lives. So it becomes an incredibly powerful tool when you really understand it and take the time to dig deep to understand what your brand why is. So, you can get started in developing your brand why by asking yourself and your key stakeholders a few of these questions. So first, what is maybe one word that your organization owns in the mind of your target audience today? Getting to understand what you currently own, and then what is one word you want to be known for, and start to think about how you can get there. Getting a better understanding of what business you're in, and then ultimately, why are you in business? What is your purpose? What is your brand why? So hopefully these questions will get you thinking about the importance of the business that you're in. And for some companies, it's easier than others. If you're not producing life-saving technology, it does get a little more difficult, but I'm telling you, put the time in and it can truly transform your marketing.
Yeah, Debbie, if I can jump in here too. So
Sure.
It's actually a really great exercise. Those are really simple questions. And sometimes the answer to the first question, what's the one word that you own? It might be nothing. I mean, and that's a true, I would say half the time we ask that question, they're like, we don't own anything. And that's kind of why we're here. And that's a fair assessment. The other part of that exercise, which is always so revealing, is especially if you ask those questions, if you get the key stakeholders in a room and you ask those questions and you have them write it down individually so they don't hear each other's answers, they're not the same. They're just and they're all true statements, maybe true answers, but they're not the same answer. And how, as an organization, are you going to move forward and really own that piece of the consumer's mind, the brand, if you're all telling a different story? So it's a really great exercise, not only to kind of get down the road of finding your brand why, but also just as a benchmark to acknowledge, okay, we are just not all on the same page. So let's just get in agreement on the direction that we're going and we'll move forward together.
Yeah, one other sort of tangible example, and I'll use Starbucks since everybody's familiar with it, but Howard Schultz was asked, the CEO of Starbucks, essentially, what business are you in? And his answer was, we're not in the coffee business. It's what we sell as a product, but we're in the people business. And then he finished it with, it's all about human connection. And although, we really can't connect right now during this crazy time of a pandemic. However, if one of us were gonna get together and meet, after this presentation, what would we normally do? We would email each other and say, hey, you wanna meet at a Starbucks for coffee? We are not going there for coffee. We're going there to connect. It's a place that you are welcome. So when you think about what Starbucks is, he's right, and obviously he's brilliant, but it isn't about selling coffee. It's about creating connection between people. So once again, that's just another tangible example of understanding your brand why. Okay, let's get on to some key business tips. So
don't forget to ask questions. No questions yet. Just throwing that out there.
Okay, so anyway, first one is don't go dark. During a pandemic, it tends to be what people want to do. It's sales have stopped, things have changed. Let's cut our budget. Advertising is always the first thing to go as soon as anybody even smells a downturn coming. And that is, you've probably heard it before, but it is the absolute worst time to cut. That is when you can gain the most market share. And Brendan mentioned we have a lot of clients in the home and building products category, and during the 2008-2009 home housing crash, we had one particular client who doubled down and continued to market pretty solidly through the downturn. And it was tough because it was tough to get the executives to agree to continue to commit that type of a budget. They came out of the downturn. They went in, I think, number 3 in market share. They came out the solid number 1 and remain the number 1 in market share today. So it's tangible. You know, you really can make some good happen during downtimes. So, you know, looking at this image, this is almost all of us right now, multiple devices sitting in front of a computer screen. You've probably got your phone in one hand or sitting right next to you. There's probably a TV screen somewhere in line of sight. There is so much opportunity to market. Now is definitely not the time to stop. I mean, now is the time to basically up your marketing game, but it needs to be done differently. So, you know, for instance, now's probably not the best time to run a full advertising schedule in a trade journal that is being sent to empty offices. However, it may be the perfect time to run an all digital campaign with that same publisher. So, you know, now you need a robust online presence because, again, that is where we all are today. So today, almost 90% of shoppers begin their product or service searches online. That is up from 71% in 2017. So if you think about it, given COVID, we're probably literally at almost 100%. I mean, that's where people are starting their searches, whether it is a product or a service, the search is the same. People are going online. So when you think about, okay, where are people going? The first place that they're probably going to go is to your website. Again, whether it's a product or service search, this is where they're going. And if your website is more than 3 years old, it probably needs to be updated. So, you know, again, your website is going to be the first place people are going. There's probably more traffic there than ever before. And, you know, there's just sort of some musts when it comes to your website. First, it must be responsive. And we're not just talking mobile friendly, but device friendly, where it automatically adjusts to the device that it's being accessed from. It needs to be visually compelling, large, beautiful imagery that tells a story. As most of you probably know, people do not read anymore. So, you know, make it pretty and make it big. You know, have motion, some ambient video, something that moves. You know, once again, there's a lot of noise in the marketplace, so you need to stand out, and that's one way to help you get there. And then, of course, it needs to be SEO optimized. Google's algorithms change all the time, so you really need somebody who knows what they're doing to ensure that when people are searching, they're finding you. So now let's talk a little bit about social media. You know, how important is it? There's your answer. This is no longer an option or a secondary or tertiary marketing platform. It is truly important for all companies. I think where companies get in trouble is that they assume they need to use social media like, you know, large consumer brands, but you need to use social for your business and your target audience, which means, you know, you need to be smart and strategic with your plan. But social has definitely changed. It used to be an option. It's not anymore. And you really need to approach it with a sound strategy. It's not just about posting. It's so much more than that. So when you look at social, 51% of US adults are using social media more since the COVID outbreak began. Once again, where are people? They're online. From your children and siblings to parents and grandparents, they are all on social media. Therefore, it is really, really important to make this a strategic part of your media mix. Now, if you're a B2B brand, you don't need to feel like you need to be on TikTok just because it's like the fastest growing platform. But it's not to say not to use TikTok. In fact, we just recommended to a client that they add TikTok because that is where their target audience is. What you really need to do is just determine where your audience is and nurture those social media sites. If you are B2B, I can't even tell you how important LinkedIn is for your business. So again, just understanding your audience and developing a social plan around that. Now, we get asked for whatever reason all the time, is Facebook dead? Do we really need to use it anymore? And our answer is that it is still your largest funnel. So no, Facebook is not dead. It's where more people are than ever before. And let me give you a graph on this. So, I mean, if you just look at this, that top one, if you can see it, is Facebook. And that's where people are. I mean, Facebook and YouTube are the most widely used online platforms, and its user base is most broadly representative of the population as a whole. Surprisingly enough, your sort of older generation and millennials, they're on Facebook. It is still the biggest funnel.
Yeah, and just if I can jump in here too, so where Facebook and Instagram started as social platforms, it's certainly Facebook has made tremendous investments in making it a marketing platform, and that's where the advertising side comes in. Less than 3% of your Facebook community will see your content, and Facebook did that on purpose because they wanted it to be a revenue generation for the company. So. But they provide a lot of targeting capability. So if you are going to invest telling your story on a social platform, you have to consider advertising on it as well, because Facebook will purposely not serve up your content to your community unless you boost it or do an advertising campaign. But there's so many targeting. You can geo-target, you can target based on likes, based on behaviors. There's a lot of opportunity to get your message in front of the right audience, but you do need to do both.
So, you know what, another area is if you don't have a huge, robust advertising budget, you really should embrace public relations. Public relations is one of the most powerful and effective, yet one of the most underutilized marketing tactics available today. I think people forget just how powerful the media is, for good or bad. It is incredibly powerful. And social media and media go hand in hand. It's important to work both ends of that opportunity. People are still consuming news. They're just consuming it through different channels. And in fact, there was a study that showed during the pandemic, traffic to news sites has jumped dramatically. So once again, the difference is people aren't reading newspapers. They're going to their phone and accessing the news just through a different channel. And this is a wonderful opportunity for for press coverage, for impressions. Once again, PR provides an ROI almost like no other. So, if you have a great business story, you should pitch it. We've had clients featured on every one of these outlets, and yes, when it comes to PR, who does matter, but I'll tell you what, a great pitch will garner almost equal results. And once again, it's not just newspapers or national media. From goodness, construction trades and law to insurance and health services, they all have trade journals, and most businesses have a great story to share, so pitch them. I can tell you right now, the media are hungry for content. Editors and reporters used to be out there, talking to companies and organizations and people and using their connections. With the lockdowns, they're having a hard time getting content. So now more than ever, pitch. I mean, you can garner hundreds of thousands or millions of impressions. Then you want to take that coverage and promote it through your social media platforms and email marketing. You can leverage it in so many ways. Again, don't forget to place it on your website. Media coverage provides this sort of third-party credibility, which quite frankly is even more powerful than advertising. And I think with PR, it's, you know, you don't miss what you don't see. So because your story isn't in the Wall Street Journal, the Beat, or in a trade pub, you don't miss it. But what if it was? What if it was in all three of those places? Now you can start to see the ROI that you're missing out on. So, you know, advertise. I mean, once again, you do not want to go dark. And advertising, like we mentioned before, is usually the first thing to go. Now, it's not to say, you know, you can reduce your advertising and be super smart and strategic. You know, marketing is all about these elements working together. Studies show that the most effective marketing is an integrated marketing campaign. Everything performs better when you're reaching your audience through multiple channels. So, you know, if you can't advertise in some of the more traditional or more expensive digital channels, you know, Brenda just spoke about it, then make sure you're promoting your story through social media. Once again, Brenda mentioned, but social media advertising is not an option, it is a must, because it is an absolutely pay-to-play platform today. Again, Facebook serves up less than 3% of your content to the audience that you built and created unless you pay for it. So, you know, if you're spending time, money, energy on content, just know that unless you're putting dollars behind it, almost no one in your target audience is going to see that content. So once again, you know, not everybody has huge advertising budgets, but you can be super smart and strategic and really make a difference with getting your message out there.
So let's just jump into tip number 2, and that is tailor your message to the time. So we spoke a lot about, you know, having to pivot. The basis of just anything during a crisis, really, it's all around being able to pivot and also just not being tone deaf. So that's what this section, this tip is all about. How should your messaging change during the time of a crisis? So if you have your brand why, that's why the brand why is so important, because it's sort of your compass. It's truly who you are, and you don't want to deviate from that. So it keeps you focused, it keeps your company focused and your team focused, but you should tailor your message while still staying true to your brand why, tailor it to what's going on. So things to consider: the timeline. You know, right now things are changing so rapidly. We have another strict lockdown taking place today. So just take into consideration the timeline and how your message relates to that. Your brand pivot. So again, staying true to your brand why once you've articulated that, but tailor your message, change your channels, make sure that you're adapting to what's going on. And then corporate responsibility. This is certainly, you know, companies, or I'm sorry, people look to brands to be responsible and to help with the community. So take a look at what you can do in that regard. Different ways to message. You can focus on COVID, you can address the new normal, just to make sure people know that you're aware of what's going on, and just evergreen content. So maybe you have your brand why and you want to tell that story. That's something that you can still promote during a time of crisis. So again, there's just a lot of different ways that you can take your message. So take a step back. You can directly address COVID, you know, give reassurance that we're all in this together, just more of an emotional story. Adherence. So if you have a service, if you're in plumbing or in maintenance of any sort, so you want to just communicate how your staff is staying safe to keep customers safe. Philanthropy, if you are giving back to the community, you're helping nonprofits. If you are a nonprofit, this is a great time to promote that. And then just some non-promotional messages. You're ready for business. You're open. I mean, sometimes a lot of restaurants, you know, you just need to let people know that you're here, that you're open, that you accept DoorDash. Just, you know, get the message out there that you're open and ready for business. Content sharing. This is a really great one, especially on the PR side too. If you are an expert in your field, if you're in finance, if you're a CPA, and you can offer your expertise, because things are changing so rapidly. So PPP was not even a thing a year ago. But the rules and the laws have been changing so rapidly as it was introduced. So if you're in the finance industry and you can offer your expertise to the media, share that. You're not promoting your interest rates, you're not promoting your product packages, you're just sharing your knowledge, and it's great exposure for your business and your authority on the topic. And then of course there's discounts. So BOGO offers gift with purchase. Discounts are a great time. Everybody's looking for a deal. And then just with regard to being tone deaf, this, especially on social, a lot of times when you're doing social media, you schedule your content ahead of time. And so you need to go back and remove posts that might come across more tone deaf. So a lot of companies nationwide, they've spent millions of dollars developing a campaign. Here's an example for hotels.com. They had a campaign where Captain Obvious was on a plane, and it was a packed plane, and he was, you know, his neighbor was sleeping and he was dipping his hands in their snack bag. If that would have ran once COVID hit, then that would have just been completely inappropriate and tone deaf. Nobody's traveling, nobody's sticking their sticky fingers in other people's food, not that they should be doing that anyway, but it just would have come across very, very inappropriately. So they pulled the plug last minute, and they just showed Captain Obvious doing hand sanitizer, sitting in his chair with his bowl of popcorn and saying he's going to be social distancing for a while. Again, they weren't talking about hotel discounts. They were just feeling, you know, just empathetic. So Debbie talked about this. Don't just tailor your message, tailor your messaging channel as well. So take a look at video. We're just focusing on video for this presentation, but take a look at all the channels. Video is king, and we can't stress this enough. There is a way to tell your story, your brand why, through video. YouTube is the world's second largest search engine next to Google. So produce videos, tell your story, post them online. Social platforms optimize video usage. Google optimizes, you know, your videos. So invest in video to tell your story and get those posted online. Live video is expected to grow 15-fold from 3% of internet video traffic to 3% to 13% by this next year. And then by 2022, 82% of global internet traffic will be video. And that number is going to just continue to grow. So just take a look at your channels and how you're telling that story and get to where your customers are.
And do you know what a great way to distribute your videos is? Yes, email marketing. So email marketing is more important than ever before. I mean, it's funny because this is another one of those marketing areas that people ask if it's even worth it. Is it still, you know, relevant, whatever? Our answer is absolutely yes. And, you know, here's why. Globally, in 2019, there were 3.9 billion email users. By 2023, that figure is set to grow to 4.3 billion. I mean, this is where people are. Once again, they're at home in front of their computers. So, you know, email is the third most influential source of information for B2B audiences, behind only colleague recommendations and industry-specific thought leaders. So, you know, it's almost as powerful as word of mouth. I mean, it's a pretty powerful marketing medium. Click-through rates are 47% higher for B2B email campaigns than B2C. However, you look at this next stat and you know it's pretty powerful there too. Consumers who purchase products through email spend 138% more than those that don't receive email offers. So again, just looking at how powerful email marketing is now more than ever. Interestingly enough, you know, people think millennials aren't on email, but 73% of millennials identify email as the preferred means of business communication. And if you look at the stats, there are about 71 million millennials. 73% of that is over 51 million. So there's a lot of millennials on email, and then of course among other generations. So you want to make sure that you're aware the target audience is. Now, it's not to say you're not going to do mobile marketing and that sort of thing, because, we do know personally millennials do not use email. I mean, they are probably almost 100% mobile. The median ROI for an email campaign is 122%. You can expect a return of $38 for every $1 you spend. Now, again, these, yes, are statistics from various, research organizations. These numbers can change dramatically, but if you really look at it, I mean, the ROI on email marketing is pretty amazing. On average, email marketing yields about 4 times more ROI than any other digital channel. So it's powerful. And once again, go where your audience is, go where human beings are right now. And where are they? Sitting in front of a computer.
Okay, so I want to be cognizant of time, so we have about 10 more minutes. So our fourth tip is constant communication and touch points. So I know we've talked a lot about advertising and PR, and it's like, well, what if I don't have an advertising budget? Really, the point is to take a look at every point of brand interaction. So take your business and how do people engage with your company, with your service, with your product, and that is an opportunity for you to promote your brand why and your message. So we're excited to share this with you guys. This is something that we use with our clients, and as simple as it is so powerful and has helped us out tremendously, especially as we have to pivot sometimes overnight. So essentially, this is our ecosystem, our communications ecosystem, and we're going to provide this as a PDF for you guys after the call. Essentially, Debbie, would you mind going back just for a second? You put your brand, your company in the center, and you look at every single point of brand interaction. So whether that's advertising, social media, PR, internal communications. Nobody's attending trade shows right now, but if trade shows is a thing that you do, put it in there. Outline every point of brand interaction. How do people answer the phone? What your email signature says, like every single point, put it on this map. So that way, when you need to pivot, it's a checklist so that you're not missing anything. You're not missing any opportunities. And usually when you have to pivot, it's in a bit of a panic. So this is just a really great foundational tool to make sure that nothing is missed. And it's not to say that you have to change every single point of brand interaction, but at least you've acknowledged it and you haven't missed it. So we're going to provide this as a tool, customize it to your business so that it makes sense to you, get all departments involved so that they can put their insight in there. And then it's a dynamic living document so that when things have to change, you can make sure that it's being communicated on the website, it's being communicated on the phone scripts. Every single point of brand interaction is addressed. So we're going to provide that to you guys as a tool. And then our fifth tip is just marketing planning instead of plan. So, how has your marketing changed since the pandemic began? And if it hasn't, then it needs to as soon as possible. Do you have a marketing plan, or better yet, do you have a roadmap or a rollout grid, which is what we do? So if your plan looks like this, which a lot of them do, they're in binders that sit on a shelf. Nobody likes to read, as we've talked about. So it's kind of a set it and forget it plan. We recommend taking a step back, using the ecosystem map, the communications ecosystem that we're going to provide to you, reevaluate and reallocate your resources on purpose with a strategy in mind. And the most important thing is have a plan that has the ability to pivot. So like Debbie said, right now may not be the right time to advertise print in a trade that's going to publish in 2 months. Go digital. That way you can change your message on the fly. Depending on your industry, things are changing overnight. Restaurants, for sure, this rings true for them. So just being cognizant of your industry, your timeline, and create a digital plan. So this is just a snapshot of one of the plans that we use to lay the foundation. And the beauty of it is that you can see every single marketing point of brand interaction in one screenshot. That way we don't have to go through a 100-page document to kind of figure out where the revisions need to be made. If things need to happen, if things need to pivot, then we can see where and how it can pivot across all points of brand interaction. So this is a dynamic document that every department at our client's company has access to. so that they can see when and where messages are rolling out, how it pertains to their department, and if there is a change or a pivot, then we can address it through each department. So we highly recommend making sure that your marketing plans are digital so that they can change.
Okay, 5 minutes to go. So to recap, number one, we want to, it's so important to articulate your brand why. The 5 tips that we just think will be incredibly helpful for you moving forward. Don't go dark. Tailor your message to the times. Email is incredibly powerful now more than ever before. Ongoing constant communications, and once again, marketing planning, not just an old-timey marketing plan, because I'm telling you, during a pandemic, I think I've heard the word pivot a million times, and it's the world we're living in. So, if you are utilizing it's all about marketing planning and really having the ability and the openness to pivot along the way.
Oof.
That's it. Hopefully y'all have some questions.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Wow. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you that are listening, but I've got a page in front of me that is just chock-a-block full of notes. So that was such a fantastic session. We do have 4 minutes left for all of your questions. So if you do have them, now is the time to shoot them over. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, if I can just say something also. So we are going to provide that that communications ecosystem as an attachment, and then we have our emails here. So again, marketing is all tailored to your business, your own unique challenges. So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brenda. All right, we have a question that's come through. How do I differentiate my business within the marketplace, especially during a pandemic?
So I think the very first thing you can do is take a look at your brand why. Nobody does your business with the reasoning and the passion and the purpose that you do. So if you can articulate your brand why, that is the first step to differentiating your business in the marketplace.
Fantastic.
Yeah, also, if you have a commodity business or service, and it might be a little bit more difficult to differentiate because your industry is heavily regulated, create something that's unique. And it might already be a service that you already offer, but it's just packaging it and naming it something different. So, what extra steps do you guys put into your process that make you unique, and then put a name to it, brand it, so that it's a product or service package that you can promote that differentiates you from your competitors.
Yeah, and whether it's a product like Brenda's talking about, or on the PR side of things, sometimes, a client says we have nothing new to pitch or to promote. We call it repackage and repitch. That's a mantra throughout our office, because there's always something you can repackage and repitch.
Fantastic. We have a question from Amanda. How do you recommend companies reconcile corporate values that misalign with Facebook's values with the importance of being present on Facebook?
I would need a little more clarity.
Okay. Let's see.
Corporate
here.
values that don't match Facebook values?
Yeah, let me read it one more time. So how do you recommend companies reconcile their corporate values that misalign with Facebook's values, given the importance of being present on Facebook?
Maybe from like a political standpoint, values?
Yeah, that again, I want to be able to answer the question. Feel free to email us so we can get a little more clarity and context around it. Yeah, we'd be happy to discuss that further.
Perfect. And just so you all know, after this webinar is done, I'll be sending an email to all of you, and Debbie and Brenda will be copied on that. If you do have questions, please feel free to respond, and we can take care of that. All right, another question we have. Can a company be successful without advertising during a pandemic?
Yes. Not without marketing, but yes, without advertising. So there's different ways, just using the communications ecosystem to communicate your message so that you're doing it frequently and consistently. Like Debbie mentioned, PR is so underutilized, and so just utilize your resources to put yourself out there. Use PR. Media is hungry for content. Social media is great. Email marketing, capture those leads so that you can continue to nurture them when the economy is back up and running and ready to buy.
Awesome. And I know that we're at 11. We'll just cover a couple more questions and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. We just had a question come through from Trisha. Hi, you said video is king, especially on YouTube. How long or short should videos be?
That is a really great question. And, you know, the easiest way to answer it is short. However, it really depends on the content and it depends on the audience. So it is all about strategy. Who's the target audience? What's the content? If it's, you know, something that you want to put out on Facebook, you know, or through social sites, you definitely want it short. But, you know, if you're doing, you know, if you happen to be in healthcare and you're doing some in-depth presentation or interview, it can absolutely be longer. So once again, it really is dependent upon strategy, target audience, and the content, what you're talking about.
Fantastic. And we'll just wrap it up with this one question. Again, folks, any other questions? We will get a report afterwards seeing your questions and we can follow up with you. If we don't have a big budget, what is the best way to market your brand?
Social and PR. Social and public relations is really just incredibly powerful. You know, a perfect example, again, I'll use a huge brand because everybody knows it and kind of gets it and understands it, but Red Bull, although they spend millions on advertising now, they built their brand through public relations. This was prior to social media. So they did a lot of different stunts, created a lot of content for the media, great stories for the media to share, and they were able to build their brand through being smart, strategic, and understanding how to leverage the power of you know, media.
Yeah, and I will say too, emails are gold. So email is a long-term relationship. So the more you can do email capture in any tactic that you implement, that's a relationship that you can continue to nurture long-term. So that's where a lot of our strategies during this pandemic, where our clients aren't selling products just because their industry is shut down. Our goal during the last few months is let's capture as many emails as possible so that when things go back to quote unquote normal, you will now have a whole database that has been nurtured and you can continue to nurture to garner those sales that you may have missed.
Awesome. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. Thank you to Debbie and Brenda for sharing with us today. We appreciate all of you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's Bender U on pivoting during the pandemic. I think we can all agree it's super important. As a reminder, this session has been recorded. A link to view and share the recording will be emailed to you following the webinar. Should you have any questions that arise after the webinar has concluded, again, reach out to us. We are happy to help. So to all of you, and Debbie, Brenda, thank you. We hope you have a wonderful day and a fantastic holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.